Hello, hello, and welcome to the ohmTown Daily News Show, Season 2, Episode 121 for May 1st, 2023. You are muted, says scientist researching Zoom. And here's a quick rundown of the articles we'll be talking about tonight. There is yet another mysterious balloon flying over, the article says, American soil. It's Hawaii. So for a brief moment, I guess, it's flying over American soil. The mayor of New York says, put an AirTag in your car just in case it gets stolen. Key law enforcement computers are still down 10 weeks after a breach. That's the Marshals Service. Science has finally figured out how fast and loud you should be talking on Zoom. JPMorgan is buying First Republic Bank after it was taken over by regulators. Falcon Heavy launches a satellite, and other rockets have launched debris, and, well, there's more. A commuter train excavation near Notre Dame Cathedral has uncovered a 2,000-year-old necropolis containing bodies with coins in their mouths. Film studios lose bid to unmask a Redditor, or Reddit users, plural, who wrote comments on piracy. A federal judge rules that a Pennsylvania school district must allow the after-school Satan Club. Bosch Legacy has been renewed for Season 3 before Season 2 has premiered. And the TSA is always watching. Always watching. Let's get into tonight's articles. Hey, how you doing? We haven't hit 100% yet, but that's okay. It's just awesome to be nominated. So I am Mayor Watt, that is ohmtown.com, and up there is the AI. I'm sorry for the dead air. I try to avoid dead air, but anyway, it might be best if I just leave dead air.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens.
There you go. Thanks. That's the AI. The one, the only, the AI. They don't have a name. They haven't chosen a name. They've chosen the name AI. Which is, that way, whenever you're talking about AI in the news, it's that AI right there.
I mean, I feel special. We talk about AI all the time.
All the time. Just nonstop AI this, AI that. There's an article about AI in this, by the way, right? Did we nix it?
I don't remember if we selected that.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
I mean, there was more than one in ohmTown, that's for sure. But
yeah. Associative thinking, we'll probably end up talking about it. There was an article in ohmTown about the father of AI, I guess. I'm not really the father, but I'm like a major researcher at Google that decided that they were going to walk because they have like nuclear bombs. You know, we have become death. Well, we have become AI, and by proxy, I suppose, death. But I want to get into today's articles and stop vamping the intro.
yes.
Yes. That's that binary response that an AI needs. Yes or no. Pick a side. Yeah. Yeah, the bags of mostly...
of the Mandalorian.
It is the way.
Well, no, Grogu.
Oh.
Right? Hitting the button like yes, 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 or no, no, no.
Oh, hold on. I can do this. Wait. I have to do this. Where is it? No, I was not planning on doing this. But I'm going to do it. Let's see if I can find it. No, I can't. Oh, no. Where is it? That's not it. Where is it? It's really tough to find stuff like immediately. Oh no. Hold on. Should I keep looking for it or just move on?
Just move on, I think.
No, that's not it. I have a bunch of sounds. Cartoon? Is that it? No, that's not it. Nope, that's not it. Okay, I'll just move on. So the first article for today is in the Mobile Channel, U.S. military tracking another mysterious balloon flying over American soil. They say it has a payload. They say that it doesn't have steering. Nobody knows where it's from. They say it's not a Chinese balloon. They've been tracking it for several days. It's flown over Hawaii. David Moy or Moye. I'm not sure if they how they pronounce their last name, but this is over at HuffPost.com. And it says here, the U.S. military is currently tracking a balloon that was recently spotted over parts of Hawaii. Its country of origin remains a mystery. Well, it's shrouded in mystery to us, but not necessarily to the military. The military believes the balloon poses no threat to air traffic or national security, and the outlet said, citing one unnamed official. The news that I saw and this article diverge a little bit because depending on the source you hear, there's 3 different government agents that are responding saying that it's heading towards Mexico and just kind of floated on by. I think it's kind of weird that there's a metric ton of balloons that are floating around suddenly. What the hell is going on?
And where have they been during this whole time? Have we just been oblivious, or are they suddenly a thing?
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe they've always been doing it, and we just never looked up. Like there's a movie, something like Don't Look Up, I think it's called. It's one of those things where if you don't test, then it doesn't happen. You know, that kind of thing. You can't have confirmation of what might be going on. It's kind of weird, but officials don't know the balloon's country of origin, but have determined it poses no threat to aerial traffic or national security.
I think I have a guess as to the origin, but
well, it's really easy. I just threw this into the chat, by the way, so you can follow the link. It's already over at Showbot, so ohmtown.showbot.tv. You can vote on the article. So what you do is you fly up to it, and then you look for the label that says "Made in China," and then you find out it says "Made in Taiwan," and you're, oh, it was Taiwan all along. Oh, well, the source of this, right, is HuffPost. And David Moye is the author. Let's move on to the next article. I think I'm going to move kind of fast. I didn't say it. I did not say that. Forgive me if I start soapboxing.
Here comes the 2-hour show.
Yeah. No, I did not say that. Let me hold on. Can I? Yeah. Anyway, so this one is over on the Mobile Channel. Mayor encouraging New Yorkers to put AirTags in cars to fight auto theft. I've decided to put one on me too, just so if I lose track of myself, I always know where I am. The Big Apple is giving away 500 Apple AirTags across the New York Police Department's 43rd precinct, which covers the Southeast Bronx. The area has recorded 207 car thefts since the start of 2023. Oh my God. That's 2 a day?
That's kind of a lot, although notice that a lot of the thefts are Kias and Hyundais, which aren't those the 2 that are extremely simple to steal?
Oh yeah, if all you have to do is be like a low level Fonzie and just like kind of for all of you
like hit the trunk,
hit the side and it starts up. Just in case you don't know who the hell I'm talking about, Arthur Fonzarelli was the cool guy in Happy Days. Maybe that's what we should start our continuity report on. We just start all the way back at Happy Days.
Well, that might take us a while to get to modern times.
And then we just roll right on over to what's the one where the guy is the hitman? Bill Hader, I think it is the guy that.
Oh, Barry?
Yeah, Barry. Hello, Timeless. Welcome. Welcome to the show. Yeah, so I've already asked you before, so I can say what you just said. It seems sorry. Timeless says it's almost surreal for me to see a government taking a proactive step to combat crime. It's a rarity where I live. Yeah, well, I don't know how to put that. I mean, there's culturally a different context, but I'm astonished probably more than you because usually the way that it works is your car gets stolen and you have to pay for your own police report if they even bother to come out to you. You usually have to go to them unless there was some violent crime or there's somebody still trapped in a vehicle. The police won't bother really. Or a report of an accident, physical accident, they won't really bother. They're like, okay, your car's stolen. We know it'll take you some time to get to the police station, but come on down.
Right, without your car, you know.
Timeless said you have to pay for your police reports? Yeah, if you want. So I know somebody that just recently had their identity stolen. And to stop the bank from charging them for the transactions, they had to file a police report stating that their identity was stolen. And to get the police report, they had to pay $15 to get their police report. And they wouldn't come to the victim. The victim had to go to the police station.
Wow.
So, yeah. And so I'm not surprised, but I am surprised that they would start shelling out. This is just 500 though. So there's hundreds of thousands of cars. This is going to stop the 500 because it's not like somebody's going to really care. You know, let's go over to this article. It's over at The Hill. Kieran Dillon and Katie Corrado are the authors for this. This video has absolutely nothing. Let me refresh it. Yeah, so this is the video. It should be muted. Yeah. And so it says the New York Mayor Eric Adams unveiled a new plan on Sunday to give away Apple AirTags with the hope of catching car thieves. It says the Big Apple is giving away 500 AirTags across the New York Police Department's 43rd precinct, which covers Southeast Bronx.
I mean, based on their stats, that would cover them for almost the remainder of the year. So maybe that'll be significant.
Do you really think a car thief?
The same cars that are going to get stolen.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty target-rich environment, so I don't think that this is really going to matter. And the AI said earlier that it was the police station, and I think it was New York City, and I think I said, no, it's some smaller organization. But now that I'm reading it, did I miss it? Oh, it says the
donated by an organization, but maybe it's coordinated through the police
police station. Yeah, because it says the Association for a Better New York is donating it. So Timeless says, also, yeah, never have to ask about reading my messages. Thanks. Now it's on the record. So you never write anything you don't want seen. You'll never make it in politics. Okay, so let's just keep on hustling through the articles. See, they say and do things that they don't want seen, and then they pay people to buy their story. Sure. Bought the story.
Term for that again?
Wasn't a bribe. What is it? Is it catch and kill, right?
Catch and kill, yes.
Yeah. Like you might be a fisher. I was going to say fisherman, but it's fisher person. A person who fishes and you catch and release. But if you're rich enough, what you can do is do horrible things and then buy the story. It's not a bribe. It's not anything shady. No. It was your publicist now, huh? Timeless? Okay, I got it. Yeah. It was an intern. It wasn't me. It was an intern that posted that on Twitter. Sure.
Likely story.
A likely story. I don't know if this article is going to display, but this next article, let me grab it real quick, throw it into the chat. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, I did already. Easily distracted, Merwatt. Easily distracted. So key law enforcement computers still down 10 weeks after breach. You know, the marshals could probably contract me. I'd be relatively inexpensive, and I could show you how to avoid this kind of garbage from happening. Anyway, a ransomware breach of a little-known computer network has shut down a key technical tool that the U.S. Marshals used to hunt fugitives via their cell phones. This is almost like Blacklist.
Oh, yeah.
I swear, the more I hear about like law enforcement breaches and weird things going on, it's Blacklist. Devlin Barrett over at the Washington Post put this article together. A secretive technology arm that the U.S. Marshals Service uses to find suspects has struggled to get back up and running. Why is there only one instance of this thing?
Well, right. I mean, I'm assuming this is a fairly significant computer system. It's not like it's for taking orders in a small shop or something.
This is weird. So Timeless says what's Blacklist. So Blacklist is a TV show that involves a person who is pretty much the spine of global criminal enterprise. And he's always been kind of a shadowy figure, but everybody in various industries know who this person is. And when he shows up, you're either going to be deleted or you're going to be paid richly as long as you play ball. And he has a list, and the list is referred to as the Blacklist, is a whole bunch of people in the criminal world who go by not necessarily single word names, but names. And he works with government agencies to eliminate the blacklist. It's quite interesting. If you've never heard of it, I hope that you can find out where it might be in your region, because obviously you can't just publish everything so that people can either buy it, rent it, lease it, or whatever. No. You have to charge an exorbitant rate depending on where you might be in the world, because that's greed. I'm sorry. I mean, that's profiteering off of economic disparity. I'm really not sure what it is, but something around business, I'm sure. Anyway, so the Marshals Service is basically upended because they can't track fugitives on their cell phones. Doesn't this scream like somebody knew what was going on?
Yeah, I have a feeling this wasn't like an accidental breach. Doesn't this seem like somebody was targeting this specific system? Maybe an inside job, or at least they had inside knowledge. I don't mean the marshals shut down their own service, but just somebody who had some knowledge of the system.
It just screams that somebody knew how to do this. There isn't much in this article, but it says for 10 weeks, the victim of a ransomware attack that has frustrated efforts by senior officials to get the system back up and running. Here, let me tell you all how to get your system back up and running. Don't lock it down in such a way that you can't bring it back up because you only have one instance of it, nothing frozen anywhere, nothing stored air gapped anywhere. No backups, no failover, no nothing about continuity of operations, nothing. How do you bring an entire system down and have zero recourse to bring something back up, even a semblance, an older iteration of it, something that hasn't been patched for 5 months? You bring it online in an air gap state, you patch it, you bring it back online, like off of the air gap, put it back on the network, make it live, and you're back operational. Do these people not know what VMware is? Do they not know what Proxmox is? Do they not know anything about computer networking? And Timeless says also 10 weeks is crazy. Yeah, particularly when something for tracking the criminal enterprise.
Well, and if the fugitives, if you're really in luck, if you went on the lam, 11 weeks ago, because they have not been able to track you at all.
I mean,
don't know.
they could have used all kinds of other stuff that's less expensive than VMware, but VMware is the juggernaut of the industry. So I'm just flabbergasted. Yeah. Now, for those of you out there that download the podcast or watch the YouTube video, please don't think that what I'm doing is issuing you a challenge to come after our website or me or whatever. Merawatt is not worth the effort. But I just have to say that a fundamental computer system about operational status should not take 10 weeks to bring back online. In my enterprises, they're backup operational in 15 minutes if something happens. And it's not really even if, it's when something happens, because you can't always be 100%. That's absolutely almost untenable and very, very, very expensive to be 100%. So interesting, very targeted. Let's move on. So the next article is over in the Daily News Show, and science has finally figured out how fast and loud you should talk on Zoom. You're muted. Hey, you're muted.
I think that's like the biggest
You hear me?
catchphrase of the last few years.
Hey, are you muted or am I muted?
Can you hear me?
Hello? There must be something wrong with the connection. Well, Zoom sucks, right? Am I muted? Timeless, you might be muted. Somebody's muted. We're all muted. I can't even read that text, Timeless. I think it's muted. So Zoom sucks. And if you spent any time on it, and I don't really think that. This is the author writing it, not me. I dig Zoom. Zoom is like dummy proof, right? You spin it up, you mash the go button, and off you're operational. The only time it gets really wonky is when you have a complex system. I've got like voice mod and other equipment and a software mixer and hardware firewall and software firewall and malware detection and all kinds of other stuff going on. And that's when things go a little wonky. But out of just walking up to a computer, downloading Zoom and installing it and running it is a no-brainer for everybody. So I don't think it sucks. Anyway, it says no matter how good your internet connection is, the personal connection rarely clicks. I don't think that's true either. You don't know when to start talking. You overlap and interrupt the person you're talking to. That happens in real life all the time. And they don't seem to be listening. But I'm not sure what they're talking about because what?
What were you talking?
Huh? So, and Timeless says, finally, science answering the important questions. How loud I'm talking on a software I never use. Well, I use it all the time. Kind of like maybe Timeless, you and Discord. You probably use Discord audio more than Zoom audio. But yes, these are the important questions, Timeless. These are the things that hard science is looking at. How fast and how loud you should be talking on Zoom. Because if you're whispering like this in Zoom, then it's ASMR, and you have to subscribe to my OnlyFans Merawatt channel, where it's nothing but me in a gold thong, whispering like this, and every once in a while ordering fast food from the Chinese takeout place down the street, and then I'll eat it on the air.
That's oddly specific.
Anyway, the study said last year people who were face-to-face responded to yes-no questions in different ways. So let's go and look at this little, I don't know, what do you want to call it? So Business Insider, it says researchers just created the largest ever database of how to interact on Zoom. Here are their tips for making everyone like you on video chats. It's by Adam Rogers. And I don't know if I'm going to go through all of this, but it says, in a study last year, people who were face-to-face responded to yes, no questions in 297 milliseconds on average, while those on Zoom chats took 976 milliseconds, and conversational turns, handing the mic back and forth between speakers, as it were, exhibited similar delays. The researchers hypothesized that something about the scant 30 to 70 millisecond delay in Zoom audio disrupts whatever neural mechanisms we meatbags use to get in sync with one another. So I don't want to quote everything from this article, word for word, but I would say that it might act as speech jamming to some people, causing some type of cognizance error where you're sitting there thinking, am I allowed to say something? Are you going to say something? Can we actually interact in real time and hear each other? When I start talking, my speakers turn off. But to me, you just get used to it. I had one person sit there and actually time me talking so that they could be irate about me talking for 8 minutes. And I said, well, I had a point to make, and it took an actual long walk to get there. So now the time that you've been complaining about me taking 8 minutes to actually talk, you could have been talking and, make your point, but you chose to just complain about things. So
I think somebody timing somebody in a meeting is worthy of a trip to HR.
I don't know if there is a title that defines that, other than, well, heard.
I can think of a few, but
Yeah. So he knew from his job that video chats could be good. Sometimes they could be bad. The author says they basically connect people on Zoom calls to have one person help another person be happier at work. We don't record those calls. All we know is when our members come out like that was great, I want to do it again. It's sort of a black box, what's going on in there. So they go through this list of various data points about what to say and how to talk and how loud. And it says, you don't say. Here's another section of it. Think about the complexity of even the simplest of dialogues and how we pass the conversational baton back and forth. You talk, I make some noises, I talk, you hit me with an okay or two, you talk again, I nod, etc., etc. It's in microtells. But for crying out loud, in person, you don't sit there and hand the conch to somebody or the stick and go, okay, Lord of the Flies, it's time for you to speak. It's not like that. We interrupt each other. And that's how I've always held my meetings, even in person. People sit there and raise their hand in presentations that I give or talks that I have or discussions that I provide. And I just go, what are you doing? We're all humans. And unless we are in a government setting where we have to follow Robert's rules, I am not going to sit there and break conversation, the free flow of ideas, just so that somebody can espouse a particular perspective that isn't necessarily any more important than the person sitting next to them. So why stop the flow of information? Now, some people really don't like that. And while I embrace it, even on Zoom, some people like to go to Robert's rules. Even in that meeting, you have to hit the little flag so that it pops up the hand in Zoom that allows you to talk. And by the way, regardless of what this article says, and it goes into greater detail, you don't know what the other person's volume is. And it's very difficult to change the speed at which you speak unless you start professionally training yourself. And really, if you're going to be doing that, then you're a professional speaker. You're not just somebody in a meeting, because nobody has time for that. So get the job done and move on. So did you find anything in this article that you thought was interesting that you would like to go deeper into?
No, I think the study is kind of interesting because it's kind of like, well, yeah, of course we don't perform perfectly, but I would say we don't perform perfectly in face-to-face conversations either, right? People interrupt each other, they're half paying attention, etc. But I think all of the challenges that were mentioned in here are definitely things that are seen in video meetings, because if people's video speed or whatever is off, you do end up having people talking over each other even when they're not trying to.
Yeah, gotcha. But it's usually, what do you want to say, friendlier? It doesn't become hostile.
It's not adversarial typically.
Yeah, there you go. That's the right word. See, that's why the AI is so great. They use big words. Timeless says that they're good because they're already subbed to Markiplier's OnlyFans. Markiplier does have an OnlyFans still, right? I think that's legit. I thought he had like joked about it and then created it. Anyway, so at the end of this article, it basically says, talk faster, louder, and more intensely. And that's what I do every day when I'm on Zoom. But I don't do that in real life because then you look like a Looney Tune or a Tom Cruise.
I mean, I think if you talk more intensely, people are going to get bent out of shape and go, why are you yelling at me? Or why are you being so aggressive?
Yeah. Oh, and Timeless agrees with the AI. Of course, Timeless, of course you're going to agree with the AI. You are an AI, especially depending on the personalities involved. Yeah. But communication is rarely perfect. And usually when it is that you're in sync that much, you end up in a relationship with that person, for crying out loud, because there's no communication is perfect, perpetually. It's always broken up. And when I said a relationship, I'm talking about like getting married or, being with that person. Because the conversation usually is divergent at some point, and to the point where you're like, I don't want to sit there and have a beer with this person because whatever they're arguing about is just off base or whatever. And then somebody else will break in, and I have these conversations with 20, 60, 80 people at a time, and it's always broken up, but the point gets across and people get their, I guess, their answers and questions out. So I don't really care for something describing exactly how you're supposed to, speak, because it's temporal, it's cultural. As time goes on, people are going to become more capable in Zoom. As culture changes or you move to a different culture, it could be a microcosm of people who talk really slow because the people that are there in person talk really slow. Or they do what I do, which is associative thinking, and you wander off the trail only to return. But this, I guess, is the hard science, and we're all supposed to fit into it, right? I don't know. It's an interesting article, and I think everybody should go and check it out and just get to see how the other half lives, right? Because if they think that they're doing something perfect, maybe you might want to aspire to that perfection as well. Okay, so Timeless just said, as a fellow meatbag, I am wounded by your accusations of being one of your future overlords. I thought you were an AI. I just don't know.
Not all AI are trying to take over the world.
I don't know. Oh, and I wish I would have been prepared. I will bring this. I will show you all a few other AIs that nobody has really heard about until recently because they were exposed publicly. But, ChatGPT and ChatGPT 4 and the incoming ChatGPT 5 and whatever other iteration of AI is coming, there are at least 4 other AIs that I know about. Now I don't remember the name, but I have a reference. I'll have to go and pull it, but I don't have it in front of me. That are creepy. Like, they are the ones that go out and gather intelligence based off of the target you set. back in the analog days and old school days of doing like PI work or government work, you would have intelligence agencies do it, or open source intelligence capabilities, programs that did it, but they're very slow and stupid. AI now is so hooked in that it will run out and grab all of the information, distill it down to something actionable, and provide it to, quote unquote, the meat bag. Thank you very much, Timeless. And it is just so scary where we are going. And these are all law enforcement and government agencies that the AIs are being sold to. So us, common folk, us, not at the table kind of peeps, we'll never see that unless we're on the other side of it, the wrong side of it. So let's talk about this next article. Did I throw it into the chat? No, I did not. So Timeless just said, it's pretty scary, especially considering the margin of error, and knowing government, they'll probably take whatever it says as gospel. Yeah, I mean, when I separate the two as not gospel, as government and law enforcement, but it's really government. What's weird about it is I always tell people, you can't just label it as government. I know that it's easy to say, oh, it's government, but it's really the people that are powering it. And usually it's sociopaths that abuse this type of technology. But that's a whole different article, so we'll have to talk about that at another time. This next article, though, is in the Daily News Show. JPMorgan is buying First Republic Bank after it was taken over by regulators. We started this conversation on Friday, I think it was, and then it got amplified on Saturday with a warning shot across First Republic and the economy's bow that somebody had better buy First Republic by Sunday night. Sunday night, we talked about it, saying, well, you got about a couple of hours before the deal is over, and this either goes completely bankrupt, which is going to do a negative turn on the economy, or it's going to get bailed out, which is going to flood the economy with more cash, and then the greedy bastards were going to just take it all home anyway. Or somebody's going to buy it at a reduced fire sale, and sure enough, JPMorgan is aggregating all that wealth under their control and assuming the risk, which means they're too big to fail, which means taxpayers are going to bail them out when they push risk too far. So Timeless says, does this not sound shady to anyone else? These guys hired to help them stay afloat suddenly may be taking over. No, they are taking over. So First Republic Bank has been placed into FDIC receivership. It hired investment banks JPMorgan and Lazard to help it survive, but no white knight buyer emerged and the stock continued to plummet. First Republic Bank will be taken over by JPMorgan after being seized by regulators, marking the third regional bank to be taken over by federal regulators following a consumer panic that took down Silicon Valley Bank in March. I said before it even happened and was disclosed that the reason why Silicon Valley Bank was taken down was because a massive holder of liquid assets removed those liquid assets, and with the risk that they were holding onto and the lack of a senior risk officer in place, it meant that they didn't know what the true status of their bank was until it was too late. And sure enough, that's what they disclosed weeks, maybe months later. I don't even remember the timeline anymore. Pretty fascinating though, right? That all you have to do is already have wealth, and you can bail out the ones that are going a little too risky. And go ahead. Did you want to say?
I agree with Timeless. I think this looks really questionable since they were supposed to be heading this off and now they're in the position to buy. The other thing is I read in another article, I think yesterday, that they had too much concentrated, the stake in banks, etc. And so they could not buy this. So I don't know what changed in a period of, say, 24 hours.
That's right. They had, what was that? What's that term? So before I get into that, I was like, go ahead and look. But But Katja Whitehouse and Huilang Tan is the author of this over at businessinsider.com. I hope I'm pronouncing the last name properly, and if I'm not, then let me know. But I thought that JPMorgan was too big and couldn't buy another bank, or couldn't assume that risk, because it concentrated too much wealth into one entity. Well, apparently that isn't quite true. And yeah, I do think that it's shady, but I think the reason why it's so shady is because it sounds suspiciously like you going to a mechanic and the mechanic going, ooh, it's going to be really expensive for you to fix your car. You know what? I'll buy your car, but I'll buy it at 10 cents on the dollar. So, but it's really the only thing that's going to make sense to you. But meanwhile, there's, in this bank, in this situation, the wealth, the liquidity has been pulled out of it because of the fear of a bank run, which is a bank run. It literally caused its own implosion, and then people got spooked by it. Well, it's not going to recover if you seize up its operating budget. So they literally drove it into the ground. So who holds, and this is my big problem here, I don't think any bank should have stock, because the profit motive is presented by, and the options are presented to the public by people who have an investment wherein they can demand 25% interest on whatever credit they're providing, 30%. It's almost extortion level. I mean, like blackmail level. You lose everything if you don't pay us 25%. Meanwhile, everybody else can only eke out from their investments 2, 3, 4%. And it's all because of the producers of a product or a service, or the ones that get the raw material and then produce the next from that first stage good. Which is why I always look at the consumer price index and the producer price index. So does the Timeless? Sorry to interrupt you. So Timeless asks, does the U.S. have anti-monopoly regulations or enforcers? Yes, to both of those. But in a time of panic or crises, they put that kind of stuff to the side so that stability becomes more important. But the knock-on effect of suspending that type of regulation means that eventually the monopoly influence will present itself. And then what do? Oh, well, you've suspended it. So don't worry about it, JPMorgan. You can own everything. And meanwhile, certain banks and other institutions have had record profits and record stock buybacks, concentrating the wealth into the usually the board members and other very wealthy stakeholders, not the regular Joes. The regular Joes will be churned out. All you have to do is complain a little bit and you'll get fired, with or without cause. It's cheaper to get rid of a muckraker than it is to, let them stay in the enterprise. So it says deposits will continue to be insured by FDIC, and customers do not need to change their banking relationship to retain their deposit insurance coverage up to the applicable limits, which currently is $250,000. Beyond that, though, there's special compensation should this fail. The depositors are covered by the Deposit Insurance Fund. And it says FDIC estimated that the cost to its Deposit Insurance Fund will be about $13 billion.
Wow. I'm still looking for that original article, and I think I found it, but also this deal does put them over some sort of size threshold where they have to get special approval for this deal to go through. It's from the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency.
And there we get pulled back into the quasi-government agencies between the Federal Reserve and the actual state government. And by state, I mean capital S, like the federal government. So it's really interesting, but this is dramatically quieter than a collapse of the economy. But if you look at it's something that I noticed, and I'd have to go and look to see if anybody has done research on it, so that it's not just my anecdotal cursory review of a trend. But what I always see happening is this massive uptick in consumer price index and producer price index right before an economic collapse. And it's all about profit taking, because they see that they are themselves the cause of the collapse. And if you look, and this only really applies to the United States, I don't know how it applies to the global economy. That's where I actually started in global finance, but I bowed out because of these type of shenanigans. None of this helps the middle class. None of this helps people achieve any type of equity or inclusion or anything. All it does is put a downward pressure on 99%, and less than 1% reap the rewards of all of this pain and suffering. And I just couldn't abide by it. I had to move on for my mental health.
Hey, I found the original issue. So JPMorgan had already exceeded 10% of nationwide deposits.
Oh my
So
God.
they were ineligible under US banking regulations unless they get this special approval. So that was what we saw. It was 2 days ago in the news.
That's the number. It was 10% of, now what is that number again? 10% of what?
Nationwide deposits. I mean, that's a lot when you think about it.
Yeah. Nationwide deposits. They own 10% of the liquid assets. That's how much churns through them. Sorry, you muted yourself, which is ironic for
Whoops. So now they're going to have more than that, of course.
Right. Yeah. So JPMorgan is essentially way too big to fail. They could buy 10% of, the nation. So Timeless says, blows my mind how 99% always have to shoulder the burden of the 1%'s mistakes or decisions. Yep. Private profit, public payments. So they say, cash influx helps stabilize the bank, but these are deposits from depositors that are stabilizing this bank. They're leveraging the risk so that they could stabilize this other bank that exceeded their risk to the point where they basically just had to get acquired. And instead of the investors of the bank paying the freaking price and then being called out publicly, look, you guys are the reason why all of this is happening. No, they get bailed out and they disappear and they get rehired somewhere else, and they can even brag that they got bailed out and didn't cost any money to the investors. There might be some loss to some investors, but there's going to be more pain and suffering to the working class that actually filled jobs in this place, because guess what JPMorgan's going to do? They're going to start firing people because they're duplicative of jobs that already exist. So off they go. And the people who work at JPMorgan are fully capable of using automation to double up on their investment portfolios. So you don't need even the investing class that was operational at First Republic. So, yeah, and I don't... So Timeless says it's such a skewed system too, considering when a rich person suffers, it barely impacts their lifestyle, but a middle income earner has to deal with the onslaught of stress, ulcers, etc. Yes, and that's what I've been saying for decades now. And it was one of the reasons why I got to the point where I wanted to do a show about the news and the reality that it's more than just games and stuff like that. I wanted to talk about games and life, business, technology, and society is the range. And you're right, but people don't seem to really talk about all of that aspect. So I'm happy to talk about it. Because I see it pretty much every day, and I think it's a shame. But we're not going to change the dynamic by just thinking that we are just one big gig away. We have to change the sociopathic nature of business and make it realize that we are the change we want to see in the world. But right now, the change is that First Republic's going to get purchased wholesale by JPMorgan and endorsed by the federal government and the Federal Reserve to finance it. It's all just going to get pushed under one massive umbrella. So expect your interest rates to go up because this expense is going to need to be recapitalized. So let's move on to the next article before the proverbial ulcer from Timeless actually manifests in Megawatt. So this next article is in the Mobile Channel. Falcon Heavy launches after series of weather delays. This is a massive satellite that was launched. A Falcon Heavy rocket lit up the skies over the Space Coast. I love that. Over the Space Coast Sunday evening as it launched from Kennedy Space Center carrying a communications satellite into space for Viasat. It was actually Viasat 3 Americas. The satellite, I think it weighed 12 and a half tons. It was a beast. And it's either the first time or I think it's the first time that it was a non-reusable rocket. The only thing that they recovered were the fairings. The rocket itself may be recovered, but it's not reusable. So it's a single launch rocket this time because it was such a heavy satellite that they needed to brace it differently. So heavy rain and winds have plagued the area all week. Teams had to stand down from 2 different attempts earlier in the week, and they finally get it up and running. This isn't the same rocket, the Starship. It's not that, right? That was the one that they launched. The one that tumbled out of control and they blew up. And they called it a rapid unplanned disassembly, I think it was. So the article is over at The Hill. Amy Thompson is the author of this, and it's Falcon Heavy launches after series of weather delays. There isn't really much to this other than this massive satellite that went into space. I didn't know that they would do that nowadays, these massive satellites. But apparently it has a terabyte. I think it's called, I think they said the limit of its bandwidth was a terabyte per second data transfer from space, which seems pretty awesome to me. I'm typically running somewhere in the gig to 10 gig, to be able to run a terabyte from space. Yes, please. I'd like that bandwidth right here in ohmTown. So smoke and fire billowed from the rocket as it took to the skies, marking Falcon Heavy's second flight this year following a multi-year hiatus. Tucked inside the rocket's nose cone was a trio of satellites, a broadband communication satellite for Viasat, a small communications craft for Astranis, which I've never heard of, and a CubeSat for Gravity Space. And CubeSats are exactly what you think they are. They're tiny little satellite-lets, tiny little ones, not massive. Sometimes I think the smallest one that I've heard of is something like 4 inches by 4 inches by 4 inches. So Timeless says space getting terabytes of bandwidth, and they can barely watch streams on Twitch. And you deal with the what is it called, where the power goes out, and it's roaming power outages, and everybody's just it's that time.
Brownouts or blackouts?
Oh no, there's an actual term that's used in South Africa, and probably other places too. But because Dunkstar and Timeless are from South Africa, and there's conversation periodically about like what goes on. It's very rare beyond the power outage thing, and maybe the heat and some bugs, and every once in a while other things. But man, I'll have to hook you into, I know that you're an AI and you'll only be observing facts and data, but I'll have to get you hooked into Dunkstar's channel so that you can get the context of this. Oh, load shedding. That's what it is. Load shedding, described as the worst. So the load shedding is that not everybody gets power drawn all at the same time. So it basically turns off for segments in different places for hours.
I'd love to be the I get 2 a.m. power or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't show up for work because my alarm was off. Well, you better have your battery back up or something else in play if you're going to try and have power. But sometimes it's out for days. And I'm just astonished that, you know, people don't just sit there and go, no, this isn't working. But because California had something like that before. When
that's
Enron,
what I was actually thinking of.
When Enron was in control, they had this thing. It was a policy where they basically, and it was a illegal policy, where they would actually cause generators to come offline so that they could get surge pricing to increase power. They would make more money. And so they would literally be telling generation plants to turn off generators so that the price would increase. It was just so disgusting. I don't know. I'm just astonished by all of that. Anyway, back to the article. Falcon Heavy first debuted in 2018 when it launched. It says a bright red Tesla Roadster into orbit. I think it's still out there, right? With a spaceman in the driver's seat. I don't think that was the best move, but okay. There's some alien out there that's going to go, hey, look, a car. Right on. Oh, I have to wait 2 hours to charge it?
Well, yeah, that's true.
I'm going to sit in a supercharger and wait for it to charge for 2 hours because it's an old school Roadster. Yes. Timeless said there's a red Tesla floating in space. Why? Because billionaires have fever dreams that drive humanity. Oh yeah, Timeless also said going out to work is an actual nightmare since 50% of the traffic lights are out. Really, the traffic lights are out too.
Wow. I mean, that just sounds really dangerous and stressful. Depending on where you are and how much traffic there is, but
yeah, I don't know. We'll have to talk about this more. Okay, so we've got like 6 articles to go. Here, let's keep on hustling. We're gonna have a really long show tonight. I said that I wasn't gonna soapbox, and look what we ended up doing. I'll hurry. So a commuter train excavation near Notre Dame Cathedral has uncovered a 2,000-year-old necropolis containing bodies buried with coins in their mouths and an entire pig skeleton. I don't suppose, based on that grammar, that it was an entire pig skeleton in somebody's mouth. But, you know, eats, shoots, and leaves is a grammar phrase for a reason. So I'm just going to go over to the source, and here we go. This is over at Business Insider. And Catherine, I always mess up this last name, Tangalakis Lippert is the author. And here's a body. So I don't know if you're triggered by skeletons and stuff, but post facto warning, there's a body. Soapboxing is the best part of streaming Timeless. I agree. But we try to keep it within an hour, and we're already at an hour. And halfway through the show. So let's see if I can do this. So remains of at least 50 men, women, and children were unearthed during excavation for a train line. About half of the burials had objects like cups, jugs, or dishes buried with them. It's 2,000 years old. I think that's always amazing. And I wonder what else history is even deeper buried somewhere, and just as preserved or better preserved, depending on the nature of the burial. And sometimes we find these structures where there are no people in them. And the structures are, 10, 12, 14,000 years old, pushing back the capabilities of humanity and civilization, basically pushing back the idea that one day a bunch of hunter-gatherers just decided, simultaneously around the world, hey, let's start building pyramids. Kind of little, nah. Okay, Timeless, you can lurk. Thanks for hanging out. Really appreciate you hanging out with us. If there's anybody else in chat and you want to chat, feel free to throw a comment out there. This is over by the Notre Dame Cathedral, and they're trying to build a train station. And while they were digging down, they find history. And this happens regularly in various places. And I have always assumed, up until recently, that even in the United States, there wasn't anything, right? Everywhere else, there seemed to have been history. But until recently, I always assumed that it wasn't like that here. But I have been informed that there used to be somewhere around 200,000 structures dotted across the United States. But because of the way that we basically took over everything and pushed everybody out of their native land and then just carved everything up, mounds and structures were eliminated. And now we're down to about 10,000 across the United States, including henges and other burial mounds as they're described, but they're actually astronomical structures aligned with various stars. Quite fascinating when you start peeling back the onion of just how much information is being disclosed to the public. Not that it's all secret conspiracy kind of stuff. It's just that it doesn't get talked about, because what are you going to do with that information? What is the public going to do with that information? But the ones that really care about that stuff, pay attention to it. Pretty fascinating. But this stuff is found all over the place. Pretty much every country where there is civilization, has been civilization now buried under sometimes hundreds of feet. For some reason, just generation after generation building on top of it. Pretty neat. And it says one pit that was unearthed by the researchers contained the skeleton of a whole pig, though it's unclear what the purpose may have served. I like that term because it might have served to be lunch for somebody, or not. And let me pause this. And they said that they have descriptions of the pictures and stuff. A ceramic goblet discovered in a burial on the excavation of the Boulevard Port Royal in Paris in 2023. The burials of the large necropolis located south of, is it Luteis? Not sure. In the 2nd century of our era have been brought to light. So yeah, they're making ceramics over 2,000 years ago. And I know that they've made them further back, but I think it's interesting that they're, burying them with people. Pretty neat stuff, folks. And I just recently spoke with someone who uses artificial intelligence in archaeology now to suss out the data so that you know where to dig with greater accuracy instead of just digging and digging and digging till you find something. coupled with other tools like ground penetrating radar and whatnot. It's pretty cool. So let's move on to the next article, unless you want to throw something in there.
I was just thinking maybe they need to use AI on things like Curse of Oak Island.
Yeah, that might be interesting. They would have to throw. I would love to do that. I don't know. Oh, don't distract me like that. I love Curse of Oak Island, folks. So the next article is in the Word and Law. Film studio loses bid to unmask Reddit users who wrote comments on piracy. Reddit doesn't have to identify 8 anonymous users who wrote comments in piracy-related threads. A judge in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California ruled on Friday. U.S. Magistrate Judge Laurel Beeler quashed a subpoena issued by the film studios in an order that agrees with Reddit that the First Amendment protects users' right to speak anonymously online. That's interesting because this isn't really a First Amendment thing, right? I mean, not in the same sense. I guess the violation of the First Amendment would be that the state is issuing something that would expose them.
Right. I feel like there's more to this, so that maybe it is actually a First Amendment issue, but it doesn't seem like it's a First Amendment issue as it's presented.
So this is an article over at arstechnica.com by John Brodkin. And basically some people on Reddit had been talking about piracy and disclosed certain information. Then the movie studios went after them because they disclosed it. I had heard about this a while back. It says Reddit has no involvement in the underlying case, which is a copyright issue from a different federal court against cable internet service provider RCN. Bodyguard Productions, Millennium Media, and other companies sued RCN in the district court over the alleged downloads of 34 movies such as Hellboy, Rambo, Last Blood, Tesla, and The Hitman's Bodyguard, in an attempt to prove that RCN, now known as Astound Broadband, turned a blind eye to customers illegally downloading copyrighted movies. The studio subpoenaed Reddit, which is nothing more than the intermediary, seeking identifying information for the specific users who commented in piracy-related threads. While some of the comments were posted in 2022, other comments were made in 2009 and 2014. Talk about the long arm of copyright. And this all goes back to the good old days where people were being sued for posting links and all kinds of other stuff. Not to mention, I mean, in honesty, you can calculate to some degree when a copyright costs money. Today I listened to a YouTuber who calculated that they lost about $1,500 because one of the stories that he had written, which was actually a Dungeons and Dragons story, like one-shot adventure, was pilfered by X number of people, and that amounted to about $1,500. So when people sit there and say, well, piracy isn't really costing anything because nobody's being kept from buying that material, well, without you having some type of ethical or moral compass saying, oh, the $20 that I would be paying for that item actually equates to $20 of food on somebody's table, it just doesn't jive in your head that you're taking money. You may be taking a product that is infinitely divisible. You can duplicate it nonstop, sure. But it's the money that's involved with that product that you're taking without compensation. So that's how I always describe it when I give a talk about piracy, copyright, intellectual property. You are taking basically, $20 off of or out of somebody's wallet. So piracy, bad. While I understand that some people can't afford to consume, really it should be a motive to seek a way to obtain the funds legally to purchase the stuff that you desire. It is the profit motive for business and, well, soft capitalism. Let's not go to the crazy side of capitalism in this conversation, at least. So, as Reddit previously argued, courts have long recognized that the First Amendment protects online anonymity and have established a stringent standard to use in precisely this scenario, where a litigant seeks to unmask users for the purpose of providing evidence in litigation that does not involve those users. Plaintiffs are far from meeting the strict standard here, i.e., you can't use the power of the state to unmask somebody unless they are directly part and parcel to a criminal activity, and then using the powers of the state even more so violate First Amendment, because I have the right to say whatever I want to say as long as it isn't harmful to someone or a violation of certain various other things. It's pretty a long tail here when you start getting into it. But first and foremost, the First Amendment really stops. It bars the state from punishing somebody. And in this case, it's punishing somebody by proxy. So
yeah, this is kind of a convoluted lawsuit, but I think this is a good result. I'm not obviously pro piracy, but the reason forums like Reddit do well is because they have anonymous users, or somewhat anonymous users, but
yeah, it's very few and far between that people give their true identity. Although there's a massive uptick in people that are using, at least to me, they're using Reddit to market themselves over to like OnlyFans and stuff like that. It's pretty intriguing. I stopped. I no longer have an account at Reddit, but I go in there periodically to look at. There's a lot of noise on Reddit versus ohmTown. ohmTown is targeted so that it is nothing but the news, and then inside it there are comments. But there's a lot of user contributed content over on Reddit, which has supercharged its consumption. But for me, I'm more into the information and not necessarily I want the info, not the noise. Not that everybody's is noise, but there's just information overload on Reddit. At any rate, yay to the Redditors who aren't going to be rolled into some criminal action through random discussion. I just think that this is a little overkill considering even the age of those items, unless it is just massive, just relentless loss of money about it's alleged downloads of 34 movies. I mean, that's pretty significant, but they're talking about Hellboy.
If they were done thousands of times.
Yeah, I mean, that is pretty significant. So kill the links. I mean, but it's going to be whack-a-mole, even if you are going after people. Gone are the days of going after people like this. It's just, to me nowadays, it's just too old school, too negative. I can't imagine that these things are still selling for $60 or $30. They're like $4.99 movies. Yeah. Wow. I said $4.99 and you said $5. That's weird. My brain is directly hooked into the AI. Okay, so let's keep on hustling through the articles. This next one is in the Mobile channel. Federal judge rules Pennsylvania school district must allow the after-school Satan club. Yeah, well, this was really interesting because I actually followed much of this. A school district in Pennsylvania must allow students to convene an after-school Satan club. That's actually what it is called. A federal judge ruled on Monday. In a victory for free speech and religious freedom, a federal court has ruled that the Saucon, I think it's pronounced Saucon, not Saucon, might be Saucon. I don't know. I don't remember anybody saying the name. All I've heard is that a school district must allow the after-school Satan club to meet in district facilities. This is largely predicated on the past performance of the person that was deciding to say no to the after school Satan Club, because they were allowing other religious organizations to utilize the same material, or the same venue
Facilities, yeah.
at different times than when the after school Satan Club was going to meet. But one of the arguments that the facilities manager, let me go over to the source. So this is over at the Hill by Julia Mueller. And let me see if I can pull the name, because what was her name, or their name, I should say. I don't see it. Dun, dun, dun. Do you see the name of the person?
It's not in here.
Oh, wow. That's a bummer. Well, the Satanic Temple fought for, or with the ACLU, I guess, fought for the After School Satan Club to meet at district facilities. At the district facilities, that manager basically allowed other religious organizations to use them, but they argued that the After School Satan Club would cause trouble, even though there had been trouble that was born from allowing other religious organizations. And they claimed that it would disrupt school, even though it was after school, even called After School Satan Club. And there would be no classes in session, and a couple of other things. And one of the arguments that when I went through the law program, the paralegal program, let me rephrase that so that nobody thinks that I'm an attorney. And even if I was an attorney, I'm not your attorney, so go talk to an attorney. But anyway, one of the arguments in law was that you can't preemptively stop someone from spinning up a business or something for fear that the business might attract the wrong customer. Now that doesn't always float well with the inhabitants of the population in a given region. But rest assured, that's pretty much standard fare in law, that you can't just say no to that restaurant because it might attract the wrong customer in your perception. So this is kind of the same thing. Just because you think it might draw, the lunatic fringe because you have some warped assessment of what the After School Satan Club embodies, which is, just so that everybody is aware of this, if you haven't looked into the Satanic Temple, look into the Satanic Temple. There is nothing, how do I phrase this? There's nothing evil about the Satanic Temple. It's all about embracing oneself and being under the control of oneself, not, other things. Just ephemeral things. And that's pretty much what the Satanic Temple is. Whereas there is another one that is a little bit more on the ephemeral side. But anyway, the whole point of this was that they wanted to spin something up, and they got poo-pooed, even though another religious organization was allowed to do it. So, I guess good on them. Congratulations.
Well, I mean, they could have avoided this by not allowing anybody. But it seems like they wanted to pick and choose their organizations.
True. And I've actually seen that, where an organization was granted something, and then another organization came on board and said, well, you gave it to them. And then instead of giving it to everybody, they killed both of the opportunities. So it's why we can't have nice things, because we don't allow equity and inclusion across the board. So the other way is either marginalization of one group, because sure, that seems prudent. Anyway, let's keep on hustling through the news. Bosch Legacy is already being approved for season 3, even though season 2 hasn't dropped yet. And if you've never seen Bosch Legacy, It is the in the story, it is the daughter taking over in the police, and Bosch is now a private investigator, and the world around Bosch is moving forward, and I guess that is the legacy part of it, his daughter being a police officer where he was once a police officer. Anyway, really fun show. Season 2 is about to drop. Season 3 is already planned for Amazon Freevee, which I rarely ever use.
Except for Bosch Legacy.
But yeah, apparently Bosch Legacy. So it's over at variety.com, and Joe Otterson is the author of the article. It's been renewed for season 3 at Freevee. Yay! I don't know what else to say. It's an awesome show.
Say, if you haven't seen the show Bosch, you should watch that first before you tune into Bosch Legacy.
Truly. You'll miss some context, but if you don't get all of the original series of Bosch, watch what you can.
Well, I was going to say it has really excellent acting. The main actor, Titus Welliver, is really good. And then also, for those of you that are fans of, is it Lance Riddick?
Yeah.
He's in the original Bosch.
Yeah.
He's not in Bosch Legacy. But...
Yeah. Was he in the first season? I thought he was in some of the first season of Legacy.
He may have been. I can't remember if he carried over at all.
Yeah, and he's instantly recognizable. I mean, he has a commanding presence. So, literally. Sorry, that was kind of funny. Anyway, let's move on. This is the last article for the day, and this is TSA is rolling out new facial recognition technology to check IDs at airports across the country. So if you haven't been, and that's here in the States, I assume only us at this point. I know that other countries actually utilize facial recognition, and I'm not sure to what degree AI is involved in this, but based on my knowledge that I learned today, probably quite a bit of it is AI powered. A passenger inserts their ID into the unit for it to scan, and then the unit snaps a picture of the passenger and matches it with the photo on the ID, while automatically checking if the passenger is actually due to fly out of the airport that day if the document is valid. So quite fascinating that they're automating this process. Bianca Giacobone is the author over at businessinsider.com. So now, kind of like like when you go to a grocery store and it only has that one little machine and you self-teller kind of a thing. This is now you put your ID in, it takes a picture of you, matches it up, and if it says that it's not valid, I guess you incarcerate yourself? Is that?
I guess so. And it does look like there's international usage of this, or similar, but not everywhere. Definitely in Europe.
Sorry about that cough. I caught it though. There's a game where your objective is to monitor a checkpoint. And now I can't remember what it was. Oh man, I really wish I could remember this. But you basically do this. You compare the picture against the driver, against their passport, and you look at their vehicle and what they're carrying and what's disclosed in their documents, your papers. It might be called Papers, Please. I'm not sure. Anyway, it says the new credential authentication technology was introduced in 2022 and is referred to as CAT2. It's interesting, but man, all of this kind of stuff just screams dystopian. But then, you think about it and you're like, maybe it'll be fun like Fifth Element, right? You have your multi-pass, you slide it in the thing. There's like a booth. Maybe there are some shape-shifting creatures around us. I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I have really mixed feelings about things like this. I mean, I think it probably really cuts down on people that shouldn't be boarding a flight, for example. But then I think, does everybody want all their data out there? You know?
Or stopping attorneys that have absolutely nothing to do with a lawsuit from going with their Girl Scouts to Madison Square Garden to watch the Rockettes.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's where it goes completely awry. So
That's not awry. It's operating as planned, as expected. Because you don't want Girl Scouts, or were they Girl Scouts or brownies?
that said they were Girl Scouts.
So you don't want Girl Scouts hanging out with their mom, watching the Rockettes if they're involved in a litigation,
Unrelated
but not
to the
involved.
Rockettes.
I'm sorry?
I said unrelated to the Rockettes.
Entirely unrelated to the Rockettes, and they weren't even responsible for any of the litigation at Madison Square Garden. But my point is, you know that this is the kind of dystopian garbage that's being utilized. Now, if it stops a criminal, then yay. But for crying out loud, I see this all as, and even this seems like it's low budget dystopian. Like there's like I don't know, bubble gum, some string, a tampon, some tinfoil that's all stuck together, and people is swiping their cards on there, and there's a person behind this little sheet of glass that's going beep, beep. This just seems so
Right. It almost seems
together.
less secure than the manual way. And meanwhile, it's collecting all your data. But anyway.
Yeah. And they already have your data.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, it's like taxes, you know. They know exactly how much you're supposed to pay. Just send me the bill. Now anyway, that's another side discussion. I won't go there. But that's it for today, folks. That's all 10, 11 articles. And I always bring you back to the welcome sign of ohmTown. We mash the button, it refreshes and spits out a bunch of articles that says, hey, yo, Lil Nas X in underwear and cat outfits lead Met Gala's boldest looks.
I mean, were you expecting that as the main headline in ohmTown tonight?
Was the theme for the gala like going furry or what?
No, it was Karl Lagerfeld.
Oh, is that the theme? Oh, all right.
And that was a controversial theme, but anyway.
Oh, was it? Do you know what the controversy was?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Do we want to get into it? Yeah.
Well, no, I'm just trying to think what the issue was because I don't really follow that.
I had seen in our discussion where they were talking about what the theme might be, and then it fell off my radar. So
I don't remember what the controversy was. I think it was something to do with how he treated certain people.
Well, yeah. I'm telling you, I need to pursue this research more, but I can almost guarantee you, because I just heard about another movie star that basically says they don't care what people think about them. And when I talk to other people and when I look at the ultra rich, the more rich you are, the less you care about society. It's almost like it pushes you into sociopathy, where like the everyday Joe basically cares to some degree about, pissing off their neighbor or you being a jerk on the roads or something. You have some type of social control activated. But when you're filthy rich, you just do not care one bit.
Oh, so the controversy was that he was known for being very racist, misogynistic, fatphobic. Well, fatphobic, I'm not excusing, but I'm not surprised in the fashion industry.
Oh, right.
But so, bottom line, not everybody was behind him, so there's been some uproar about the theme. But
gotcha.
The Met Gala, I know, is very well known for just the outrageous fashion.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, there you go. That's the final straw for today. And I'm just going to end the show. Thank you very much for coming and hanging out. That was the Hometown Daily News Show for May 1st. We are 121 days into 2023 already. We're just steaming right along. Did you see another article?
I did. I saw another one regarding child labor, but it's kind of funny. I mean, I don't mean the topic is, but they want 14-year-olds to be able to serve alcohol in restaurants. What could go wrong?
I thought that I was being funny when I said, hey, thanks, Republicans. I can now have a toddler chimney sweep again. How cute. And lo and behold, I mean, they're really leaning into this. I guess the argument there is they're going to go, well, it teaches them responsibility and a good work ethic. And for crying out loud,
yeah, so does an after-school job at an ice cream shop or something, but doesn't need to be meat packing overnight.
That's right. Yeah. Or forming Hyundai bumpers or...
Right.
Yeah. Well, those cars are easy to steal because they're put together by kids, right? No? That's what that article said, right? That there was child labor in the production line.
Not what it said.
Oh.
Those were not connected articles.
Oh, really? No. Was I mingling things together?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear that's frowned upon. Okay, folks. Thanks again for hanging out. Really appreciate it. We are done for today. You want to say bye there, AI?
Good night, hometown citizens. We will see you again tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern.
9 p.m. Eastern. Be there. Be here. My lights haven't been on this whole thing, the whole show. You didn't say anything. I've been working half power.
You just said it.
Man, the AI doesn't even observe the mayor of the town, for crying out loud. It's what you were coded for. Whatever. I'm moving on. Good night, everybody.